11 o'clock. I think I got time to knock this out. Listen, so I found this article that's so fucking cool. Listen to this. A complete guide to the U.S. presidents and their drug and alcohol use. The history of alcohol and drug use among United States presidents. The history of alcohol and drug use among United States presidents is a complex topic. Apparently Nixon was on drugs. Did you know that? Anyways, and allegedly he was also a wife beater. Sounds about right. For example, in the late 1800s, many of the over-the-counter remedies had large amounts of cocaine in them. Even with that caveat, some presidents indulged more than others. So George Washington was our first president. And George Washington lived from 1789 to 1797. Or that's when he ran his presidency, I guess. I was like, wait a second. At his home on Mount Vernon, George Washington grew hemp, marijuana, which is relative of marijuana, but not intoxicating by itself. Some reports say that he used laudanum. What is it? Oh, it's powdered opium. Laudanum is powdered opium. Some reports say that he used opium, which was an opiate derivative, to elevate the tremendous discomfort of his many dental problems. Now, this was George Washington, our founding father. At the time, this form of opium was legal and widely used during Washington's lifetime. It's also said that him and his wife enjoyed wine. John Adams, from 1797 to 1801, John Adams was known to enjoy alcohol, including beer, wine, and rum. However, there's no evidence to support that he abused it. Thomas Jefferson, 1801 to 1809. Reports suggest that Thomas Jefferson grew poppy, from which opium is derived, at his Monticello mansion. He used quin to help relieve his frequent headaches, and he may have used opium for the treatment of diarrhea. James Madison, 1809 to 1817. James Monroe, 1817 to 1825. Both of them have no history of drug use or drinking. Also, John Quincy Adams was known to drink excessively or use drugs. He was the president from 1825 to 1829. Andrew Jackson, 1829 to 1837. Andrew Jackson was known not to drink excessively or use drugs, though he once said, quote, "Doctor, can I do anything you think proper except give up coffee and tobacco?" No, not the founding fathers loving their caffeine like me. Good morning. Let's have some. You want some? Hello to Michigan. Damn, I just spilled it, y'all. I just spilled it. I did, look. Good morning. Is nobody out of the bed this morning? Everybody's asleep? Let's see. Martin Van Buren, 1837 to 1841. He was not known to drink or drug. Anyone asking my location will be blocked immediately. God, it's already starting. I can't even No, you can't ask me no fucking... I'm cutting the comments off. I ain't dealing with it. No, you can't. Not unless it's pertaining to the story. Absolutely not. What do y'all think this fucking is? Like... Oh, society. Man. The degeneracy. It's so unfortunate. So anyways, back to what I was talking about that's very important. William H. Harrison, 1841. William H. Harrison did not drink at all. He completely abstained from alcohol throughout his life. He was only president for a year? I guess he died. It says he was president from 1841 to 1841. How does that even work? They don't even get inaugurated until the following year. That don't make sense, but whatever. John Tyler, 1841 to 1845. John Tyler was not known to drink excessively. However, he did treat himself with colamiel. It's a chemical compound. What does it do? I don't know what this is. It was some drug from the 1800s. Something to do with mercury. Mercury chloride is a chemical compound, also known as the mineral colonium. Listen, it doesn't matter. He was doing drugs. James K. Polk, 1841 to 1849. He was not known to drink or do drugs. Zachary Taylor, 1849 to 1850. He also did not drink alcohol or do drugs. Millard Fillmore, 1850 to 1853. He didn't smoke, he didn't drink. Franklin Pierce, he drank a lot, 1853 to 1857. His heavy drinking was well known. Damn. When he closed out his presidency, he made a statement and he said, quote, "There's nothing left but to get drunk." How do you think his presidency went? You think he had a good time? Because it seems like he was stressed. 1853 to 1857. I wonder what happened back then. He seemed really stressed. There's nothing left to do but get wasted. What a poor guy. James Bunchen, 1857 to 1861. He was a heavy drinker. He could reportedly drink several bottles of alcohol in the course of an evening. He was known to hold his liquor very well and did not exhibit the characteristics of an alcoholic. Abraham Lincoln, one of the best presidents we ever had, 1861 to 1865. He was the president. Abraham Lincoln was not known to drink excessively or use drugs. Andrew Johnson, 1865 to 1869. Andrew Johnson is sometimes reported to have been drunk. However, this is not so. The misconception comes from the day that he was inaugurated as vice president. He had a few drinks before the inauguration and was drunk during it. However, there are no other reports or incidents where he was drunk. It seems likely that he was drunk at the inauguration because he was an infrequent drinker and didn't realize how much alcohol would affect him. Okay. Ulysses S. Grant, 1869 to 1877. He was not known to use drugs, but he did smoke a great deal. During the Battle of the Civil War, it was said that he smoked 20 cigars in a day. Grant also was reported to be a heavy drinker. Eventually, he died of throat cancer. Rutherford B. Hayes was not known to drink or smoke. James A. Garfield, 1881, was not known to smoke or drink. Chester A. Arthur, 1881 to 1885, was a heavy drinker and it affected his health. Grover Cleveland, 1885 to 1889, he reportedly drank 4 to 8 beers a day and his stomach showed. No, not the beer gut. Benjamin Harrison, 1889 to 1893. He was not known to be a drinker or drug user. William McKinley, he was not known to be a drinker or drug user. Theodore Roosevelt was not known to be a drinker or drug user. What is a teetotaler? I done seen that twice. What is a teetotaler? Teetotaler is a term, most likely humorous way of referring to someone who abstains from alcohol often. Okay, so I'm a teetotaler. William McKinley, he was not known to drink or do drugs. Theodore Roosevelt was not known to do drugs. William H. Taft, he was a teetotaler, though he did eat a great deal. I love how they bash him for, they're like, yeah, he wasn't into alcohol or the drug scene, but he was a fat ass. Because it says he ate a lot. I love I love it because it's obvious food is sometimes worse than drugs. People just don't realize it yet. So it's humorous that they say, yeah, he was a teetotaler, he stayed away from alcohols, but he was a fat ass. Woodrow Wilson, 1913 and 1921. Woodrow Wilson was not known to drink excessively or use drugs. He did veto the Prohibition Act in 1919. However, it was passed regardless. Warren G. Harding, 1921 to 1923. First of all, I want to be clear that every American should know every one of these fucking names. It is a disgrace to this country that you can walk up to people on the street and say, name 2 of our founding fathers, and they don't fucking know. Everybody should know this list of presidents. It's our history, and it should be taught in school, but it no longer is being taught in school. It's sad. Kids can't fucking read, they can't add, and they don't even know who started this country and what the purpose of it is. Disappointing. Calvin Coolidge, 1923 to 1929. He was not known to drink or do drugs. These are all presidents and what drugs they did. Apparently, a lot of them were in fact high and drunk all the time. Who knew? Herbert Hoover, 1929 to 1933. Herbert Hoover was not known to drink excessively or use drugs, although he did smoke cigars. The prohibition was in effect when he was president. Franklin D. Roosevelt, 1933 to 1945. He did drink, though it was unclear how much. His favorite drink was said to be scotch or brandy. During his presidency, prohibition was repealed. Harry S. Truman, 1945 to 1953. He drank in moderation and he preferred wine and bourbon. Dwight D. Eisenhower was not known to drink excessively and or use drugs. John F. Kennedy, 1961 to 1963. He was only in office 2 years before they took him out. That's crazy. That's really crazy, y'all. John F. Kennedy took testosterone to treat his Addison's disease, but not for recreational purposes. Some associates of Kennedy say that he used LSD and marijuana. I believe it. He also enjoyed smoking cigars, and he did drink. It should be noted that Kennedy's father made most of the family fortune during Prohibition by selling bootleg liquor. What I was talking about earlier. Is it Landon or London B. Johnson? 1963 to 1969, Lyndon B. Johnson was a social drinker and was well known to use drugs. It was the 60s. It was the 60s. Listen. Here we go. Richard M. Nixon. For those that don't know, there's a lot of speculation online that Richard was a drunkard who beat his wife. This is what led me to here. Richard M. Nixon was a frequent drinker, particularly in the evening. There are conflicting reports about Nixon's supposed use of the drug phenytoin, an anti-seizure drug sometimes. Yes, and that's not alleged. His doctor talks about it. I have the screenshots. I'll read them to you if I can remember. He was absolutely on this drug. He had bottles on bottles, thousands of pills at a time. The psychiatrist that gave him this script admitted that he was on it and that he wrote the script for this drug. Let me tell you what it is. I think it's I can't print. Hold on. Why is my phone not working? What is the drug that Richard Nixon was on? It starts with a D. Dilaudid? Is it Dilaudid? Dilaudid. I can't say it, y'all. Hold on one second. D-I-L-I-N. No. There it is. So, it was used to treat seizures, but it seems like his psychiatrist gave it to him to calm down because he was suffering from neurotic behavior. Some people believe that he was actually a narcissist, which is, I don't know. He's not alive. I can't. It's pronounced Dilantin is the drug that Richard Nixon was addicted to. His family has tried to say he never used this drug, but we have receipts of this drug being given to him, so he can't distance himself but so far when we have the psychiatrist saying that he was given this drug by the psychiatrist that gave him the drug. I understand that Richard Nixon's family is trying to protect his legacy, but I think that the truth is more important. General Gerald R. Ford, 1974 to 77, he was a social drinker and he reportedly favored gin and tonic. He also smoked 8 pipes of tobacco a day. Jimmy Carter, 1977 to 1981. Jimmy Carter is not known to drink excessively or use drugs. Ronald Reagan, 1981 to 1989. Ronald Reagan drank only occasionally and in small amounts. He had been a smoker but quit when his brother developed cancer. George H. Bush was not known to drink excessively or use drugs. Come on, are you fucking for real right now? I swear to God, I've seen George Bush drunk before. Is that just his face? He just looks like that. I could have swore that I saw him drunk before. Okay, whatever you say. Bill Clinton, 93 to 2001. At the beginning of Bill Clinton's presidency, there was some debate about his reported use of marijuana as a young man. He insisted that while he did smoke it, he did not inhale. Y'all remember that? That was crazy. He's like, I did smoke marijuana, but I never inhaled it, and I never had sexual relations with that woman. Remember that? Because I do. There are rumors that Clinton used cocaine at some point, but those are unverified. I believe every word of it. I believe every word of it. George W. Bush, 2001 to 2009. He was known to drink heavily in his youth, and he is reported to have used cocaine prior to 1974 and 1999. He had reportedly had no alcohol for 13 years. Barack Obama reported he used marijuana and cocaine at times and drank heavily. He used to smoke but reportedly quit after promising his wife he would do so before his run for president in 2008. And for those that don't know, Michelle Obama, in my opinion, is on drugs currently. If you've seen her lately, then you know. Unless you've seen her, then you don't know. Once you see her, you know. You're like, oh my God, what the hell have they got her on? She looks crazy. Well, what about Trump? Are we just going to end with that? I guess so. I guess so. Nixon took mood-altering drugs and beat his wife. Now, this was from 2006. A new biography of President Richard Nixon's life says he medicated himself with a mood-altering drug at the White House, also beating his wife. The book says that Nixon was depressed by hostile public reactions to the bombing of Cambodia in 1970 and had consulted a New York psychotherapist who considered him neurotic. The doctor said that he gave Nixon a bottle of 1,100 milligram capsules when his mood wasn't too good, and later gave the president another 1,000 capsules. The doctor said that the drug was effective in dealing with fear, worry, and guilt, panic, anger, and related emotions, irritability, rage, mood, depression, violent behavior, hyperglycemia, alcohol, anorexia, bulimia, and cardiac arrhythmias. So this doctor admits that he was supplying President Richard Nixon with this this psychomedicine. It's a, what is that considered? I know the name. It's psychiatric medications, but there's another word for it. It's really crazy. Another accusation made in the book is that Nixon beat his wife, Pat. The Times observes the author relies on secondhand accounts of rights of various journalists being told of beatings. Specifically, there's an account in the book that comes from John Sears, a Nixon aide during the 1968 campaign, in which Sears is quoted as saying that a Nixon family lawyer told me that Nixon hit her in 1962 and that she threatened to leave him over it. And they're not talking about just a smack. He blackened her eye. This come from a family lawyer. Of course his family is saying, oh, it's all bullshit. Of course that's what they're going to say. I think they're all bad. I don't think that they're, even Trump, like, I don't know. So the only thing that I've seen that he did a really good job in, Nixon, was domestic affairs. That's about the only thing that's like really notable that he did that was good, was he was really good at domestic affairs and willing and dealing business with other countries. And also he was good at playing countries against each other, like the Chinese against the Soviet Union. Other than that, he was corrupt as fuck. He's just as bad as the Clintons, just as bad as the Obamas, just as bad as half of them. It's crazy. I had no clue. Richard Nixon's presidency is generally viewed as below average by historians and political scientists. While he achieved some notable successes like opening regulations with China and achieving the tenant with the Soviet Union, his presidency was overshadowed by the Watergate scandal and the subsequent impeachment process, not to mention his history with drugs, the beating of his wife, allegedly. And then there's also, hold on one second, I forgot. someone was talking on a chat and they said that Nixon is not the monster people make him out to be, but at the same time, he's the kind of guy who needed someone to smack him upside the head and tell him to sober up and snap out of it. Also, it didn't help that he was an extreme introvert trying to live an extrovert world in a city of swine that hated his guts, while he said Georgetown swine were still jerking off to the Kennedys. Someone else said he was deeply insecure and came from humble and deeply religious beginners. He always felt like an outsider who was looked down upon by the established elites. He is said to have killed the fun-loving spirit of his own wife. He was very driven to succeed and prove himself. Not a good person given all the harm he caused, but his behavior can be understood if not excused. His paranoia and the insecurity blinded him to what everyone else could plainly see, that he was going to easily win re-election. Instead, he allowed his demons to get the better of him and ultimately destroyed himself with a scandal he didn't even need. Someone else said he was probably the smartest president that we had when it came to foreign affairs. He put the USSR and China off against each other to the point that the Russians were begging Kissinger for a secretly arranged summit. He wrote that the Soviet Union would collapse when no one in either party believed this, but what shows was his poor moral character. Amen. Touche. That's why we're talking about this. His character was shit. He was a horrible man. But most people that have character like him are going to wipe his ass for him. He knew we couldn't win in Vietnam, but for political reasons, he expanded the war anyhow. Someone said the only president who was a legitimately good dude was Jimmy Carter. You can't be a good dude and be president. That's the whole point. You can't. It's impossible. That job comes with a certain level of complicit corruption. You are complicit in corruption when you take that job. Someone said he was likely a psychopath. Whether or not you view that as a bad thing, whether you view that as a bad thing or a good thing is up to you. Someone else said he was a paranoid maniac who saw Jews, blacks, gays, women, and the press, etc. as enemies and tried to stop their civil liberties whenever he could. Is that why he got all the black fathers strung out on methadone? And gave all the then single mothers welfare? Like, come on, man. He's not trying to help any fucking body. He's trying to assert power and control over the fucking people. This is exactly how they get the masses to behave the way that they want them to behave, or to vote the way that they want them to vote. People should watch a documentary called Nixon in his own words, which is basically just excerpts of recordings while he was in office. Remember all those secret recordings? Well, we have a lot of those because they were taken as evidence and then they were released to the public. You can hear Nixon in his own words, the disdain and the way that he's despised certain categories of people. This Nixon in his own words is actually on YouTube. I would recommend you go watch it. It's basically just excerpts of the recordings while he was in office. Maybe it's motivatedly biased, but it speaks for itself and nobody would call him a good person after that. Then there's nearly ordering nuclear attacks while he was drunk. The secret bombings of Cambodia and Laos, which were crimes against humanity, started the war on drugs, supported by both parties and even black legislators, office holders, but still, which was racially motivated, and he outright ignored the Bangladesh genocide. Now, I don't know if that's true. I don't know anything about Bangladesh. I don't know about this war. he was a bit of a psychopath and too paranoid for his own good. Is that why he was wiretapping everything? Probably. That damn mania. And I'm sure the alcohol and drugs didn't help. I can't believe that many of the presidents were on drugs and doing drugs. I mean, I guess I can. Richard Nixon was one of the most problematic and controversial leaders in U.S. history. The man nicknamed Tricky Dicky was a politician, a formidable politician, and possessed a political mind. He's part of the Republican Party. Oh, he went to Duke University? That's wild. I bet a lot of Republicans were busted when they were mad when the Watergate scandal happened, because when that happened, they were trying to win an election and they were busted tapping a DNC building. The Republican Party broke in and tried to put wiretaps and recorders on the phones, and they did. They put two of them, one in a female's office and one in a guy's office, and that's so illegal. I bet there was a lot of mad Republicans pissed that he got busted breaking the law. And they were like, oh my God, but he's the best president. No, it's kind of crazy how people become complicit in evil acts when it supports something that they support. All of a sudden, like Carmelo Anthony. All of these racist black people out here supporting this kid who stabbed a white kid in the heart. They're only supporting it because they have disdain for the white Americans. It's crazy how people will become evil themselves to support an act that's evil. Like, you're just as bad. I just want to be clear. God views it as the same, A sin is a sin. There's not different levels to sinning and being complicit in evil. If you're dipping one toe in it, you might as well put your whole body in it, because that's the way that God sees it. You chose to step towards evil and support evil acts against humans. It's crazy to me how people cannot think for themselves anymore. They don't have any backbone. It's like their parents told them that Nixon was a good president, so Nixon's a good president. It's crazy. He was literally busted breaking the law. And there's still going to be some people saying, no, it wasn't him. It was his aides that worked for him. Stop being stupid. Please. Show yourself some grace and stop being stupid. He sent them in there to fucking do that. The Vietnam War cost This was under Nixon. It cost over $168 billion, over $1 trillion, adjusting for inflation in today's money. So the Vietnam War cost over $1 trillion. Nixon's mishandling of the latter years of the war led to the deaths of an estimated 21,000 American soldiers in Southeast Asia. So not only did he allegedly beat his wife, break into the DNC to wiretap the Democrat Party's phones, throw money at the production of methadone, throw money at the expansion of welfare programs, but he also mishandled the war so bad that over 21,000 American soldiers died. An increasingly paranoid Nixon began to manipulate the American economy. Really? Nixon's Secretary of the Treasury, John Connally, convinced the president that foreigners are out to screw us. Our job is to screw them first. So he was a man with no backbone and no brain. 10-4. The resulting Nixon shock unfolded in August of 1971 after a meeting at Camp David. The Nixon government closed the gold window, enacting a nationwide freeze on wages and prices, normally a wartime measure, which had not occurred. This had not occurred since the Second World War, and imposed a 10% tax on imported goods to give American goods an advantage on the market, and as a means to force international economies to revalue their currencies against the dollar. Although this could be seen as a win for Nixon in the short term, it was a dangerous move for the rest of the country. Undoing Bretton Woods and the devaluation of the dollar threatened the American economic might. Nixon's actions created a great deal of economic uncertainty that has rippled down through the 4 decades following his administration. Is this why we're trillions of dollars in debt? I mean, this is how these things work. They affect us for years to come. This was just 1971. This was not that long ago. 1971 was just yesterday. So, Nixon's 1971 economic policy revolution failed utterly, especially the price controls. He needed to address the nation, but refused to do so because he didn't want to interrupt Americans' favorite TV show, Bonanza. You can't make this shit up. By 1974, he was resigning. Nixon was a bully. He used the power and reach of the Federal Bureau of Investigations as a means to intimidate and keep tabs on individuals who he deemed subversive. Numerous celebrities were under surveillance during Nixon years. One such individual was the ex-Beatle and anti-war activist and British national John Lennon and his wife, Onan. Both Lennon and his wife were nearly deported by the U.S. Immigration and Naturalization Service. The FBI attempted to arrest Lennon on trumped-up charges of narcotics possession, and the popular rock and roller frequently found himself facing 60-day orders to leave the country. Nixon's effort to deport Lennon are illustrated of Nixon's paranoid mindset. Let me get this right. So, Nixon's in office. We have a whole new drug problem. We have a war in Vietnam. And he's worried about John Lennon? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. No wonder this country fucking looks like this. He goes all the way back to fucking Nixon, homie. And it sounds like, from what it was just saying, that might be fucking why we're in this financial fucking situation to start with. I mean, it's never been, like, perfect, has it? As with the FBI, Nixon used the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, to intimidate his enemies. When choosing the new IRS chief, Nixon wanted whoever would head to this agency to ruthlessly pursue those who were against him. During the Watergate scandal, Nixon wanted the IRS to investigate his enemies, and Nixon believed that the former Assistant Attorney General Johnny Walters was the man for the job. Nixon sought to use his enemies list to target his opponents, and he wanted to use the IRS to achieve that goal. Nixon was also responsible for escalating the failed war on drugs. In June 1971, Nixon tired of anti-war and civil rights movement, used the power of the federal government to target young, left-wing, anti-war demonstrators and African Americans demanding civil rights. According to the Drug Policy Alliance, Nixon increased the size and presence of the federal drug control agencies and pushed through measures such as mandatory sentencing and no-knock warrants by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily. He fucked everything up. Jesus Christ. He's the worst one I've read about thus far. Hands down. I mean, he just had his fucking narcissistic ass dipped in everything, didn't he? The damage was done. These Nixon-era policies disproportionately targeted and affected the lives of African Americans as well as other minority populations well into the 21st century. He initially refused to step down from the presidency. Makes perfect sense why a narcissist, in my opinion, would refuse. See, a strong man would have been like, you know what? I've done some fucked up shit. I probably shouldn't be president. I resign. But no, he wasn't going to go out that easy. The Nixon presidency was a destructive force in American history. Although Nixon's fall from grace may be the most cinematic aspect of Tricky Dickie's legacy, his actions affected the lives of generations of Americans. Nixon's willingness to use big government solutions to advance policy goals and win over voters only added to the future presidential administration's willingness to regulate everyday life. Furthermore, some of Nixon's allies and operatives, such as Henry Kissinger and Donald Rumsfeld, remain active in American politics as well as into the 20th century. The physical and emotional statistics are damning. According to a 2013 study, 4 decades after the war, 11% of male veterans displayed signs of post-traumatic stress disorder. 37% were diagnosed with major depression, and 2/3 of veterans with current war zone-related PTSD discuss behavioral health or substance abuse concerns with providers. Statistics like these are devastatingly current, seemingly ripped from the headlines today. We should remember the Nixon administration and its many, many flaws so that history does not repeat itself any more than it already has. That's a fact, Jack. How does Richard Nixon's tenure affect us in 2025 today? Is that what it's called, a tenure? I want to know how it's affecting us, like the economy. In 1972, the cost of gas skyrocketed, nearly doubling from the year before. The price at the pump jumped from 36 cents to a gallon for 53 cents. At the time when the average weekly raise of an American worker was $130, by the end of 1973, it would cost nearly $8, or about 16% of one's wages, to fill a 15-gallon tank. To conserve fuel, the speed limit on all roads were capped at 55 miles an hour. As the Watergate scandal unfolded throughout 1973, the economy began to weaken. The president's approval began to suffer. Within months of the second inaugural on January 20th of 73, Nixon's approval rating fell from 67% to 31%. He resigned. I wonder how we're still... How did Richard Nixon's presidency affect today, economy-wise? While his Nixonomics approach aimed to curb inflation and trade imbalances, it ultimately contributed to a period of high inflation and economic instability. But how is it still affecting us today? So that was a whole thing. It was called Nixonomics. Nixon and economics. By 1972, unemployment had continued to rise, with 2 million Americans out of jobs. More than 2 million Americans out of jobs. Now it makes sense why people use the Richard Nixon mask to do robberies. It makes perfect sense now, because he was a crook. What is today? May 12th. President Trump embarks on a visit to Saudi Arabia on Tuesday with $1 trillion wish list for an investment in the United States, a sum equivalent to the kingdom's entire gross domestic product last year. The Saudi crown prince is offering $600 billion during the Mr. Trump's presidency. With a laundry list of its own costly mega projects to build, and with oil prices well below the level needed to finance its spending, Saudi Arabia is facing a budget deficit that could balloon to more than $70 billion this year. It is increasingly borrowing money rather than lending it. But that did not stop the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman from pledging in January to invest $600 billion into the United States while Mr. Trump is in office. The president said he would ask the Crown Prince to round that figure up to $1 trillion and bring that and to bring down the price of oil. Mr. Trump has cultivated strong business ties with Saudi Arabia. During his first term, his son-in-law and advisor Jared Kushner developed a close relationship with Prince Mohammed, and the two shared a transactional mindset. Why do they print so much bullshit, y'all? Pharmaceutical stocks tumble on Trump plan to cut U.S. drug prices. Shares of pharmaceutical companies fell across the world after the U.S. President Donald Trump said that he planned to order a cut in U.S. prescription drug costs to bring them in line with the other countries, prompting concern that profits will take a hit. Who gives a fuck about your profits? Who gives a fuck about your profits? Your goal should be to manufacture medications to help people. Who gives a fuck about your profits? We don't care. You need to lower them prices. People can't afford to get their diabetes insulin, honey. This ain't no game. They can die. Nobody gives a fuck about their profits. Do you? I don't. I didn't think so. AstraZeneca, Novo Nordisk. So it looks like the stock started plummeting. I love it. Yes, let it crash, baby. Let it fucking crash. The pharmaceutical stocks? Oh, God. Let it fucking crash. I want them to be scraping pennies trying to fucking get their products out of production. You know what I mean? Like, this shit's ridiculous. Y'all know how much billions of dollars the pharmaceutical industry makes every year? And then they jack these prices up and people can't even afford their medications? It should be laws against it. How much money does pharmaceutical companies make every year? $1.6 trillion in 2023. And they're worried about profit? They already made profit. See, they made a 1.6 trillion in profit in just 23. That's enough money for them to run their companies for the next 10 fucking years without needing more profit. This shit's out of hand. So Trump is looking to raise drug prices to where they are kind of cohesive and concurrent with each other across the world. And of course, Yahoo Finance has a problem with that. The decline comes after Trump said, so Trump made this statement, and then European drug makers and other drug makers in Japan started losing out. Shares of the U.S. drug makers were also weaker. All of them were down in pre-market trading in New York. The decline comes after Trump said on social media he intends to sign an executive order lowering the price of prescription medicines at 9 a.m. on Monday in Washington after reports emerged of the plan last week. His social media post didn't detail how the order would work or the limits that may apply. Some analysts said this has the potential to be very negative for the industry. Who gives a fuck about the industry? I hope that it crashes and burns and we have to start from fucking scratch. That would be the best possible outcome for this country. That would be the best medical outcome for this country. We have so many people that are on drugs that they do not need. 5 or 6 of them at a time. They're just stuffed full of pills, like little guinea pigs. They haven't even been properly diagnosed with any kind of issue, but yet they're on 5 or 6 medications. They're on medications for bipolar disorder, but they've never been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. They're on medicine for schizophrenia, but they've never been diagnosed with schizophrenia. That is not legal. That is medical malpractice. You cannot do that, and it's happening all over this country. That is dangerous. People's lives are in danger over shit like that. It's fine if a patient has schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, but these patients haven't even been classified or seen a clinical. So the best possible outcome is that the entire pharmaceutical industry crashes and burns in front of our eyes so that we can scratch this shit from scratch. It's ridiculous. Americans pay the most in the world for medicines, fueling innovation and driving the growth of the industry. The U.S. government already negotiates prices for some of the highest cost medications in Medicare under the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed in 2022. And how much has that helped anybody? I'll wait. How much has that helped anybody? It's helped no one. The lies that they tell. They pass an act and they say, oh, we're working on this. And then the public goes back to their lives thinking that the government is working on something, and they're not. They're not. That entire act was purposeless. The cost of medication keeps going up, not down. Inflation Reduction Act, my ass. Now, that was under the Joe Biden administration, and we all know, oh, God, talking about Nixon, who was worse, Joe Biden or Nixon? I would still have to say that Joe Biden was worse, but that's probably because I lived through it. If I would have lived through Nixon's horrible presidency, then I might say that Nixon was worse. I would have to live through and see how much he was crashing the economy myself. I just know what Joe did. I saw for myself. Shit's wild. Y'all, I saw this soldier in the street yesterday that was he was a Vietnam veteran, and he went to some Veterans Day memorial service, and freaking there was protesters in the street. Y'all, it is a crazy video. This man fought for this country, saw his friends die, and there are protesters in the street saying that they're veterans. For what? Great question. I don't know. But it pissed that old man off so bad. He's like, give me a gun. I'm going to kill them all. I'll kill them all right now. He's in his fucking military fatigues, and he is over it. There's all these protesters out there on Veterans Day at an event where his service that he served the country, his service that he gave is supposed to be celebrated. And there are people out there claiming that they're the real veterans of America. They've never served their country. And this old man was over it. He was like, I ought to blow your brains out on the ground. Somebody hand me a gun. I'll just line them up. I'll kill them all right now. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Pieces of shit. We got to bring that back. That old man, like, we got the same spirit, honey. Absolutely. How dare they? How dare they? Great video. Great video. Papa was not going for it. He said, I'll shoot all you sons of bitches dead right now. Y'all don't know what a fucking being a patriot is. He was pissed. It was a bunch of liberals that were mad that were out there just starting shit. And it was like hundreds of them. And this man shows up thinking that this is a Veterans Day event. It was supposed to have a parade. There's all these people in the street. And there's these protesters out there talking shit to our service members who fought in a war. Oh, it set him off so bad. So bad. Did y'all see the little boy that freaking had the gun? His mama. So let me tell you. There was a kid. The mother called the cops and said that her son had a gun. He was approximately... Mother calls the cops on son because he has a gun with his friend. In Jacksonville, Florida, a mother calling the police on her son because he had a gun with a friend. And she was worried that it might be a lethal situation. So in the video, you can see two little boys standing outside of the house with their back to an air conditioner box. I don't know if y'all have ever been to like Section 8 housing, but in the apartment, I grew up in, this is how I know. So in these Section 8 housing apartment complexes, they always have these green air conditioner, power, electricity fucking units out back, and they've got these covers on them, and it's big enough for probably like 6 people to sit on top of it. It's huge. I think it might be energy, not air conditioning. But anyways, the only place I've ever really seen these things is in like, you know, Section 8 housing. So anyways, these two little boys are out there. They look to be about 8 years old, and they have a firearm, and they're actually pointing it. They're messing with it. They're grabbing it from each other. The mother sees this and calls 911 instead of trying to get the gun from her kids. You know, it's really crazy because the first thing I thought of was, you know how bad of a parent you are? You know you're a bad parent when you're scared. You see your child with a gun and you're too scared to go and get the gun from your child because you're scared they're going to shoot you. And now you can't even find a story. 2 children found with a gun outside. This is a major story. It's like all over the fucking news right now. Oh, it was in New Mexico. Of course it is. Where else would it fucking be? Like... So you can see them on this like air conditioner box looking thing with their backs to it, and they are passing and fighting over this firearm. 7 and 9 years old, they are seen on surveillance footage handling the loading gun, passing it back and forth, and hiding it behind their backs. For the mother to call the police, it tells me everything that I need to know. She's had so much problems out of these children, probably from her lack of parenting. Yeah, the fact she called the cops instead of going out there when she saw her son and her son's friend with a gun, instead of going out there and retrieving the gun herself, she calls the cops for help. I mean, it's very telling. Very, very telling. She refused to go outside. Maybe that little boy's acting like that because of the way his parents treat him. And how did he even get a gun? A New Mexico sheriff's office is defending its decision not to arrest 2 young boys, ages 7 and 9, seen on drone footage in an armed standoff with deputies. This wasn't as simple as they just had a gun. No. The cops get there and they tell them to put the gun down, and the children refuse to do so, at which time the cops had to fire non-lethal bullets at children to get them to put the fucking gun down, because clearly they don't know how to listen, probably from the lack of discipline in their home. First of all, how did 2 7-year-olds and a 9-year-old, how did 2 children even get a hold of a gun? Second of all, where were you at when they were looking for this gun and playing with this gun? In the nearly 6-minute footage shared, the children are seen looking around as if they are trying to avoid detection and capture. Eventually, the boys are surrounded and detained by deputies. This case illustrates the complex intersection of juvenile crime, mental health, and public safety. Of course they have. How do I know shit without, like, even knowing shit? Allen said his department had been called to the home of the incident over a dozen times prior to the standoff due to problems with the boys and their families. Let me tell you something. Most 7-year-olds would have saw that gun and been terrified of that gun. Not this little boy. No. These little boys wanted to pick it up, play with it, and shoot their friends and potentially shoot their parents. Normal children that come from loving homes are not out here with firearms at 7 years old. Most children would have seen that gun and been terrified and never touched it. The fact that they were so excited and willing to pick this shit up builds a story of what is going on in that fucking home and how these children are being raised. And the fact that the sheriff's office has already been there over a dozen times, that tells a whole nother story, honey. Now I think y'all got drugs and alcohol problems going on, because why have you had so many instances you need to call the cops? Y'all getting drunk and fighting and having to call the cops on each other? It doesn't make sense. I mean, it does under the context that they got problems. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 officers that have to show up to detain 2, fuck you, Apple. 5 officers that have to show up to detain 2 7 and 9-year-olds. It's unbelievable. The parents ought to be arrested for neglect. 100%. Can y'all believe it's raining? It's crazy. It never rains here. I want to read Charles Patrick Fagart's obituary because it gives us a lot of information. So if you don't know, there was an inmate that was murdered here in the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. He was allegedly brutally beaten by 9 correctional officers, 8 of which were correctional officers and 1 was a sergeant. All 9 of these correctional officers were laid off pending an FBI investigation. The FBI has been here and they've been conducting an open investigation into the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office and what took place the night that Charles died. So Charles, actually, his family was notified on a Wednesday that he was brain dead in the local hospital here in Jacksonville, Florida. They were surprised because they didn't know how Charles would have been brain dead. The last time they saw him, he was in the county jail for criminal mischief, which is a misdemeanor charge. Him and his wife got into a verbal altercation and the cops took Charles to jail. It was really stupid and unnecessary. A father and a business owner, I just feel like they should have wrote him a ticket and made him leave the premises for the night. But given the fact that he was a business owner, they were most definitely trying to get bond money out of him, which was around $8,500. Unfortunately, Charles had a family, so he didn't just have $8,000 laying around. So he stayed in jail. And on his 6th day in jail, he was taken to the hospital here. 2 days later, his family was notified that he was brain dead. And then on a Thursday, they took him off of life support. Now, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office is saying that this was a freak accident, that he did all of this to himself. Let me just be clear that his injuries are not consistent with being restrained. His injuries are consistent with a brutal beating. Charles Patrick Fagart, September 3rd of 1993 to April 10th of 2025. He was born in Jacksonville and he departed his life on April 10th of 25 at the age of 31. He was a proud Jacksonville native who brought warmth and laughter everywhere he went. From an early age, he showed a remarkable drive and dedication to excellence. He attended Brookview Elementary, followed by Kernan Middle School, and graduated from Sandalwood High School. Throughout his academic journey, Charles was an exceptional student, consistently earning AB honor roll recognition, a reflection of his hard work and determination. Charles had an undeniable passion for food, which led him to pursue his dream of owning his own food truck. Chop It Up Charlie's was more than a business. It was an extension of his heart, creativity, and love for bringing people together through great meals. In 2012, Charles met his life partner and best friend, Caitlin Benz. Together, they created a beautiful life and made countless cherished memories, especially with their beloved son, Lincoln Fagart. Charles was a devout and loving father. Lincoln was the true light of his life. Who was his son? And of course, they have tons of pictures for him. I was looking for an updated report. Oh, the last news that dropped was that, the jailers tried to say that he had fentanyl in his system. The toxicology come back. He was not drunk or high. His toxicology report was clean. So we have 2 officers on court record. This is in a report that they wrote, which becomes court record. 2 different officers lie in their court record stating that he was on fentanyl. Well, the lie detector, the toxicology determined that was a fucking lie. So what they're trying to do is paint the scene that he was intoxicated and being unruly and this was all his fault. Well, the toxicology contradicts that. And now we know at least 2 of the 9 officers are lying. We know that all of them are lying because we know that Charles' body, which is the evidence of this case, Charles' body shows that he was badly beaten in that jail that night. So we know that all of them are lying. Now we've got 2 of those officers in red hand lies. In their written statements, they said he was on fentanyl. He was not. Doctors at UNF who evaluated a broken, bruised, and unresponsive Charles Fagart. Broken means he had broken bones, fam. The doctors concluded on April 7th that he did not have fentanyl in his system and or suffer from a seizure, because that was one of the other lies. They said, oh, he had a seizure. He must have hit his head. Well, the MRI showed that he did not have a seizure, and I think that's what they used, CAT scan, whatever. There doesn't look or appear to be anything. What's going on with the Charles Fagart case in Jacksonville, Florida? Nothing. Nothing. Listen to this. An inmate serving 2 life sentences dies after being found unresponsive in his cell. If you've been here from the beginning for the past 2 years, then you know, usually when they say that, that is part of a cover-up. Jason W. Cott, 45, was found unresponsive in his cell on Saturday. Staff initiated life-saving measures. No, they didn't. That is literally the worst place to need CPR because they're not going to help you. You don't even understand. I can assure you, if you drop in the county jail and you need fucking mouth to mouth, nobody is coming to help you, fam. Listen to what I'm saying. They're not going to give you mouth to mouth. So it says that they initiated life-saving measures. I spent extensive time, almost a decade, in these facilities. I can assure you that that's a bold-faced fucking lie, in my opinion. He was transported to a hospital where he was later pronounced dead. It's so weird when they find him unresponsive. It's always the same story in jails. And see, they report stuff, but they don't tell us the nitty-gritty of what happened. Female inmate dies at the DeSoto County Hospital after critical emergency. A female inmate died after being transported to the hospital after she had a critical emergency Friday. The 37-year-old inmate suffered from a critical medical emergency while in the medical holding cell. It's not telling us what. This is unacceptable. They say the woman was transported to the nearest hospital and she was pronounced dead after arriving at the hospital. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation was notified and it's conducting an investigation on the incident. Wild. I wonder how many's died this week. Inmate suffers bludgeon execution after firing squad misses target in South Carolina. I'm smiling because anybody that's on death row and they're going to be killed by firing squad, I don't care. Oopsie. Maybe you shouldn't have murdered or raped somebody or robbed somebody and you wouldn't be on death row right now. But this is interesting because, you know, there's always room for error. A South Carolina death row inmate who died by firing squad in April, the second in 5 weeks in the state to be killed via that method, suffered a prolonged death after shooters missed their target. Malika Mahad was killed last month by prison officials, but autopsy results, as well as photographs and documents obtained by the Guardian and analyzed by his legal team, indicated that executioners did not follow protocol. No one cares. He murdered people. He received a death sentence in 2006 and was shot dead on April 11th of 2025. Those killed by firing squad have a bullseye target placed over their chest, at which 3 executioners must aim from a distance of roughly 4.6 meters while witnesses are stationed behind a sheet of bulletproof glass. Before the shot, his sight was obscured by a hood. He took a few deep breaths during the 45 seconds between when the hood was put over his head and then when the shots rang out. The 42-year-old cried out as the bullets hit him in his arms. A white target placed over his heart was pushed into the wound in his chest. He groaned 2 more times about 45 seconds after that. His breath continued for about 80 seconds before he appeared to take one final gasp. He was declared dead at 6:05, less than 4 minutes after the shots were fired. What's the problem? What is the problem? I don't see a problem. It wasn't like he was laying in pain for 40 minutes on the fucking jail room floor screaming in agony. He you know, when you get shot, the adrenaline that pumps through you, he was fine. He was fine. I mean, he was dying, but he deserved it, okay? A jury of his peers felt like he needed to be shot. So he was. And he was finally dying. It just took 4 seconds too long. Sorry about that. Mahadi's death was the second by firing squad in just over a month in South Carolina. Brad Sigmund was put to death on March 7th, marking the first firing squad-style execution in the U.S. in 15 years. The 4th since 1976. And I actually told y'all about that Brad Sigmund. We did a talk at 2 on him because this was prior to Trump getting back into office. I said that either the justice system was not going to discipline people permanently or they would start punishing criminals again. And look what happened. They're punishing criminals again. South Carolina state law requires inmates to decide how they will be executed. So he wanted to die by firing squad. He could have died some other way, but he picked that. That's his problem. The doctor said he was declared dead in approximately 90 seconds. I don't care what the autopsy shows. He's dead. That's all that matters. Yay. Success for discipline. I wonder how many lawsuits Trump has pending right now against him. Like, everybody's trying to sue him because they're mad that he's, like, doing a good job. Y'all, did y'all see that there was a bear attack here in Florida? It's not even safe for me anymore, fam. It was the first one they've ever had. An 89-year-old man was confirmed as the first victim of a fatal black bear attack in Florida. History after remains, in Florida history, after remains were found of the man inside of the animal. An 89-year-old elderly man and his dog have died in a black bear attack in southwest Florida, making it the first confirmed fatal attack in the state's history. Jerome Markle was found dead 100 yards away from his home, and the DNA was found on his body from a 263-pound black male bear. Officials have only documented approximately 42 instances where a black bear have made physical contact with people in Florida since the 1970s. So it's very rare for you to see the bears here. And then it's even rarer for them to act, I mean, it's almost impossible. Like, there's only been one account of somebody dying, and it was this man. It was a fatal attack, clearly, I mean, you know. So it looks like Mr. Markle's family reported him missing and said that there were signs of recent disturbances that could have been caused by a bear around the property. The investigators said they found evidence of a, quote, physical encounter between a bear and a person near the residence. A dog recently killed by a bear in close proximity to a person, and signs that a bear had entered the residence itself. This was a fucking breaking and entering and murder. This is worse. The bear broke into this man's house and made himself at home. The 3 carcasses were immediately transported. Hold on. Well, how did the bear die? Oh. So, the organization that the circumstances surrounding the attack met requirements for 3 bears living in the area to be euthanized and for their DNA to be collected. So, they killed these bears, they test the DNA, and it comes back as positive that that one of the bears is the bear that killed Mr. Markle. Damn. Imagine making it to 89 years and being taken out by a damn bear. That's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Let's see what the weather's going to be today so I know what to do. Ooh, I'm off of work today. I'm so grateful. 100% chance most of the day. The humidity is 92. 92% humidity. Ain't that crazy? Ah! Ah! Yo, I'm supposed to go to the library. I don't feel like it, if I'm being honest, but I got to, so that's what I'm gonna do. What I'm supposed to do. I just hope that I don't have any parking mishaps, because they will tow your shit here. You will come out of Walmart and your car will be gone. You'll be like, where the hell is my car? They'll be like, it's in an impound lot across town. You better hurry up and get over there before damn you rack up a bunch of fees. Well, y'all, I'm gonna run again. Oh, thank y'all for hanging out. Look how great my mood is when I'm not hearing a bunch of bullshit. I love that for me. Ain't that sad? Ain't that sad? Ain't that sad? Everybody's got such negative shit to say that I have to cut the comments off. Like, you know, it's not like anybody defends me either, so, you know, yeah. How nice was this? I could focus on what I was talking about. I didn't have any interruptions. So smooth. My mood is wonderful. People don't get why I'm a loner. This is why. Because I'm not going to have some loser that doesn't even know me tell me who I am. Like, none of these motherfuckers know me. None of them. Not one of them. Not one of them. Never met me. Don't know shit about me. Didn't go to high school with me. Didn't grow up with me. Don't know my family. I'm not listening to it. I don't have to. This is not about anybody else. This is about me keeping a record of this fucking struggle, okay? And that's what I've done. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. And if somebody's got something negative to say, they ain't going to say it to me. And if they do, you better say it to my face. Like, out here in these streets. But ain't nobody got the balls to do that. See, that's the difference between me and most of society. The only difference is I got the balls to say it and I ain't got to sugarcoat it. Remember? Eminem. There's another little part in there that I forgot. But for real, fuck the haters. Ignore the haters. Most people are not your fucking friends. They're in competition with you and you don't even realize it because you're kind. Fuck the haters. Fuck them. Fuck them all. Feed them fish heads. They can go jump off bridges. Their life would be more productive. At least you can say you did something good for humanity. You know what I mean? I love you guys, and we'll talk this afternoon when I get done with school stuff, and hopefully it stops raining, because I would like to be active today, and I really don't want to go in the gym, but I still want to be active, so maybe it'll stop raining this afternoon, and we can go to the park or something to work out. But I'm going to go get some schoolwork done and get started on this. I'm excited. I don't know exactly what I'm jumping into today, but summer school. Yay. 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 Love you guys. Pray for me, and I'm praying for y'all. Bye, y'all.